Good morning, good morning, good morning. Um, this is my Rabbi Archive. So you are welcome to my Rabbi Archive. And the idea of my Rabbi Archive podcast came about after being inspired by my friend and brother, Pastor Joe Amara of Canada, who got me interested in Hebriac root teaching. You know, the Hebrew scripture that we read, the Christian Bible, as much as it was written for us, but it was written for us, to Jewish people, to a Jewish audience. And in order to understand some of the things we struggle with in our 21st century educational system or seminary or languages, we need to go backstage. So he always talk about going backstage. And since 4 years ago, I laid hold on Pastor Joe Amara. He got me interested in going backstage to Hebriac root teaching and following a lot of rabbis. And they already been an inspiration and a blessing to me. So this teaching is actually inspired by Rabbi Manis Friedman. Rabbi Manis Friedman. So the question this morning is, why were you born? Why were you born? Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. You go to verse 26, it said, and God said, let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the earth. And male and female God created them. Male and female God created them, and blessed and said, be fruitful and multiply. And you know, that's from the beginning. So why were you born? Why were you born? A story is told about a young Indian man who took his parents to court and requesting the court to make them pay for all his living expenses for the rest of his life because they gave him birth without asking his permission. Isn't that funny? Yeah, they gave him birth without asking his permission. You don't need to be born. You don't have to be born. You didn't ask to be born. Then why are you here? This is not a religious or a philosophical question, please, but a question of reality. What am I doing here? That's why you need to ask yourself. How do I become obligated? How do I obligated to grow up, to work, pay bills, then born children, take care of them, pay taxes, and you know, obligated to community, obligated to people, obligated to society, and just so many things that even get me depressed and all the expenses of life. The struggle to answer this question is often the cause of the reason why many people commit suicide, because they don't have the answer. The word doesn't have the answer. It doesn't make sense that if they didn't ask to be born, but here I am burdened with needs. I didn't ask to be born, but here I'm burdened with needs. My mom and dad just brought me here. Just see, then I grew up, I have to leave their home, get on my own, take family, take responsibility, and you got to make sure you do it right. If you don't do it right, people say you worthless, you good for nothing, you are ashamed, a disgrace to your parents, you are a failure to society, blah, blah, blah. Your question is indeed a logical one, that you didn't ask to be born, and you don't need to be born. Have you ever heard that someone who wasn't born complained? You know, someone who wasn't born, have you ever heard that they complain? Of course not. So why was I born? Why were you born? Here is the logic. You didn't need to be born. This is a real logical question. If you are not here out of need, then why are you here? That's very important. So if you are not here because you need, then listen, if you are not here because you need, then someone needs you to be born. If you are not here because you need, someone needs you to be born. If you think you need and you are trying to satisfy your need, you are really going to become depressed because it's artificial. Need is artificial. You don't really need anything. Here is the thing. As soon as you start thinking need, you are already depressed. The real alternative is that you are needed. Here are the two main ingredients of all the emotional pains and psychological problems in the world. It is depressing to be needed. It is depressing to not be needed. It is depressing to be needed, N-E-E-D-Y, and it is also depressing to not be needed, N-E-E-D-E-D. If you can solve those two problems, then there is actually nothing you can call problem, because you will have no problem. The failure of psychological therapists is that they all keep focusing on your needs. That's why they fail. Instead of solving the problem, they are actually making you more depressed. For example, you go to the therapist, you say, look, I'm going through so much need, so much problem. I just want to quit. I want to throw in the towel. It's not easy. And then they say to you, look, you have no idea how much problems you have. You have no idea how much problem you have, and you never thought of that before. And you begin to go from one thing to another. You know, your father rejected your mom when she was 2 or 3 months pregnant, and for that she hated your father and hated the pregnancy. She didn't even want to have you, and since you were born, she had that resentment towards you. And you know, you're jealous and envy your siblings. Family don't like you, friends don't like you. They create all that picture, it creates more problems for you. Here is the simple conclusion. You have the option to think of your needs or to think of who needs you most. If nobody needs you, you are depressed. If you have no needs, you are depressed. What is the solution then? Your needs are not yours. God's needs of you is absolutely internal. Absolutely. God's needs of you is internal. You have no burden or reason to be depressed when you have no needs. The reality is that God needs you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth to meet who needs. If God created the heaven and the earth, it's to meet who needs. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, is to meet who needs. If God created heaven and the earth, do you think He needs nothing? The scripture says, Thou hast created all things, and for that pleasure they are and were created. I don't think if God created the heaven and the earth tells me He needs nothing. You and I didn't create anything, and therefore we need nothing. He created the heaven and the earth, and do you think He needs nothing out of it? How did we get this all wrong and upside down, people? And we're so concerned and burdened by our needs. A story is told about a Jewish boy who traveled to France to attend the Jewish rabbinical seminary. They call it yeshiva. He walks into the office of Rosh Hashiva, the school or headmaster. He said to him, I need to call my mother. Where is the phone? And this is what the Rosh Hashiva said to him. You need to call your mother? What does I mean? And what does need mean? What should he have said? My mother needs me to call her. I need to call her? Why is everything me? That was what the Rosh Hashiva was saying. And listen to this. Your mother deserves that you call her. Your mother deserves that you call her. You need. He needs me. God needs me more than I need Him. He is the creator and therefore the one who needs me. The one thing that the human being needs most is to know who needs him. The one thing that human being needs most is to know who needs him. The one thing you need most this morning is to know who needs you. In your community, in your neighborhood, at your workplace, around the world, in your generation. Instead of thinking about your need, you need to begin to think about who needs me. That's a real problem. That's a real need. God needs you more than you need yourself to be born. So your need to be born was not because of you. but because God needs you more than you need Him. God bless you. Have a blessed day.